Hello, hello. How are you? Welcome back to Live Trials by EAC with yours truly. How are you guys? I hope everybody's doing very well. Thank you again for joining me on this beautiful, lovely Friday afternoon here on the east coast of Florida in Davie. It is about 1:33 p.m., midday special. If you would like to support this podcast, please visit elizabethcharney.com and subscribe to all the platforms that are hosting this podcast. And please, please, please subscribe to my YouTube channel as it's critical for my podcast to grow. Okay, guys? It's a very difficult platform to grow on. So I would really appreciate it if you guys can, go over there and subscribe. And below your screen, you can visit that specific website, and which is my modeling portfolio along with my podcast website. Okay, thank you. Without further ado, in today's episode, I wanted to bring to you the debate that has been going on for some time now. It's been a debate, a disaster, and it's been a lot bigger than political news. So as everybody well knows, I will be elaborating today on what happened about a week and a half ago in Surfside, Florida, here in South Florida. It's on between 70th and 80th Street on Collins Avenue. Very popular place. A lot of people, hello Miami Beach. Todo el mundo viene a Miami Beach. Vamos a hacer a party. If you're from the north, northerners love Miami Beach. And, but if you're from South Florida, you're like, whatever. Hey, whatever. To be quite honest, I'm not surprised about what happened. I know that might sound very cynical and stuff, but this is a very unfortunate situation that could have been prevented. It's sickening, it's disgusting, and South Florida is a very politically corrupt place to conduct business, prosper, establish a family, be able to establish roots here. It's pretty sad, and we're seeing it for ourselves through this disaster. And it's almost nearly impossible for you to be able to live out the American dream here in South Florida. We're honestly becoming the next California. It's outrageously expensive. It's either you're very rich or you're living paycheck to paycheck without end in sight for such a lifestyle. I think it's truly heartbreaking. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I've lived here my entire life. I know what it's like to live out here and reap the consequences of continuing to reside in such a place like South Florida. I live more out west in Broward County. The building collapse happened in Miami-Dade County, but where I reside, I'm about less than 30 minutes away from the collapse of that building. So it is very, very sad as to what happened, I need some ass. So I was actually born in New York, raised in Miami. And it wasn't until I left to Tampa in 2017 for a year. And it was during that time that I realized how horrible South Florida was. And the lifestyle over there compared to here was just, day and night. Over there in Tampa, it was just in Hillsborough County. It was so much more peaceful, prosperous for all walks of life, especially those starting a family. Schools were fantastic over there. They even have, for public schools, they have those little white buses that come and pick up your kids and stuff right at the door and everything. And it's interesting because people over there care more about property and love for country than what car you've leased for the year as it is down here. Because that's really all people care about is the aesthetics aspect of you. No matter how you acquired your lifestyle, that's what people care about. I don't want to spend too much time today on this specific episode just because of the grief aspect of it. It is truly I mean, it's mind blowing. It gives me goosebumps. It's disgusting. It's despicable because this shit could have been avoided. Honestly, I really hope that that grand jury that's being paneled by the state attorney occurs, and they really, really get people to be held accountable here, because this is something that should have not happened. And what I'm going to discuss today is why I believe these things happened. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an expert in the world of construction, but what I'm going to assess is based on just common sense principles. It's really sad, but unfortunately, bad construction is common here. It's almost inherent, unfortunately, here in South Florida. It's disgusting to even say that. But not only is it done incorrectly, but it's, just conducted on a very cheap rate, and it barely meets regulatory standards. That's crazy. Not only is construction done poorly, incorrectly, but it's done very, very inexpensively, and then it's done so quick that it could be shocking to the mind, honestly, that you see a building, huge sky rise, being built in less than a year is kind of frightening, honestly. Not to say that that's how it was done with this specific building, because this building is fairly old, which it's interesting because a lot more reasoning as to why this could have happened, especially with the fact that these are buildings on Miami Beach. They have to meet higher standards of regulations and the codes and stuff like that because of the fact that they're on the beach. However, it blows my mind, honestly, how even brand new constructed homes, facilities, businesses, skyrise buildings, as I just mentioned, are just so quickly done, and they are barely meeting the standards at the bare minimum here in South Florida. It's crazy. They just built some campus housing, and they did that in less than 6 months on a lot, on an area, I guess you could say the land itself was and used to be a nursery. So they didn't even give it time for, the ground to settle or whatnot. No. They just built this fucking building. Get it done right on Griffin, the corner of Griffin. And yeah, I mean, it's just really scary. And then don't even ask me how much they cost, because that's going to be discussed in a little bit. It's scary. Construction is just done here so quickly, so badly, causes so much traffic, noise, and then all of that, you go through all of that and it's still bad. What bothers me the most too is that, bad construction is also expensive. And that is another reason why I despise South Florida, is because not only is the majority of the construction done so badly and incorrectly, but it's expensive for the garbage that it is, the value of such construction, and it's worth less than what it's being sold for or profited from. That is what's sickening. So you'll have builders spending very minimal money and then expecting such a large profit. That's the actual, consensus here with how they go about implementing their, plans, is build very cheaply, but then overcharge. It's sick. So what you pay for down here is just simply to say that you live in South Florida. And that's what blows my mind the most, is that the building that had collapsed was not only poorly constructed, it literally had a garage underground hundreds of feet away from the actual ocean, right? I mean, obviously this place was built in, I think, the 1970s or something. And I mean, there were hurricanes back then, so I'm not sure what the fuck the architecture, that actual architecture design, like who thought of that, right? Oh, let's build a skyrise building with an underground garage hundreds of feet away from the beach, right? Because of course, you know, there's no hurricanes or even very, you know, hardcore storms down here, that something as simple as very minimal flooding can just destroy every single vehicle inside of that garage. But hey, fuck it, whatever, let's just build it anyways, because the fuck do we care, because they're not gonna live there, so whatever. That to me, when I saw that there was a garage underground, I couldn't even comprehend it, because it didn't make any sense to me. Because what I wanted to know was, where the fuck do those people that park their cars there when hurricanes happen, before the collapse of this, where do they put their cars? Because they have to get them out of there. So I really, this has been obviously a very poorly, you know, place to live, and people have been residing there, you know, and I mean, it's just mind-blowing, honestly. That's why I'm still in a little bit of shock that that this really happened, because this is really like third world type shit that happens. And for that to have gone on for so long, and the, you know, the reports that were done, especially the one that was done in 2018, it was a 2018 inspection report of the collapsed building, where there was major structural damages, and there was a major error dating back to the building's origin, where there was a lack of proper drainage on the pool deck that had been the actual cause of such, you know, major structural damage, right? But HOA, they're like, fuck you, we don't care, whatever. No importa. No importa. No importa. Porque yo no vivo ahí. Yo estoy rentando ahí. Yo estoy rentando un edificio ahí. Bueno. A lot of people just, they don't care. And it's crazy because the October 2018 structural field survey report produced for the condo association by the engineer that is a professor at my undergraduate school said and wrote that the main issue at the Chaplin Towers was that the pool deck and the outdoor planters laid on a flat structure, preventing water from draining. The lack of waterproofing was a systemic issue that traced back to a flaw in the development of the original contract documents 40 years ago, the report said. Those original documents were prepared by the specific surveying company. And the report also documented how the years of standing water on the pool deck had severely damaged the concrete structural slabs below. The problem needed to be addressed quickly. And guess what? Nobody did nothing. Nobody did dick. They did fucking nothing. The landlords, homeowners, HOA, they just, whatever. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. You know, and the failure to take accountability is being put on the forefront now, as you can see. It's kind of crazy, you know. And what bothers me the most to have found out was that there were apartments being sold and had a value of over $2 million in that building. Bueno, ahora es worth, mira, cara ahora. So it's crazy how something like this could have occurred in a place where, once again, it's trying to be, you know, profited off of something that is so undervalued, and then you're trying to profit that much. I hope that makes sense, because it's just sickening when you really think about it, you know. But then this goes back to, I don't know if those that do not reside in the state of Florida or in South Florida, my undergraduate school, Florida International University, is the only public university in all of Miami-Dade County. The University of Miami is not a public school. It is a private university. So the only public university that services the entire county of Miami-Dade is FIU, Florida International University, right? So the school itself is obviously in a suburban area. Unfortunately, they needed to start building more housing for the students. So instead of building on campus, they decided to build off campus and then expect the students to, just walk across a 12 major, it's a very major highway street called 8th Street. It's not an actual highway, but 8th Street itself runs all the way from into Brickell, downtown Miami, all that stuff, and it runs south of that. So it's a major road in Miami-Dade County. So when it got to that specific area where the university is located, that becomes 12 lanes. So there's 6 lanes on one way and 6 lanes on the other way. Students would cross because the housing was there or whatever. It wasn't until the school started realizing people were getting hit by cars, killed, and it was just a disaster for the school itself. So they obviously had to immediately build some type of overpass for students to be able to safely cross the road at any time of the day or night, because that was another issue that, students would be going to, the university parties and all this stuff, and then they were crossing the street, simply getting hit by drunk drivers, whatever the case may be. So FIU was like, okay, let's build this overpass, right? Well, they constructed it and it was almost ready to go. Still wasn't even ready to be used by the public. And guess what happened? Because of the fact that it was poorly constructed, it collapsed in the middle of the fucking day in broad daylight and killed a bunch of people. Like in 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, it's just so absurd, right? You thought that they would have learned from this incident, but no, of course not. Of course not. And it's sickening. It's almost, you want to vomit because, you would have thought that there would have been a commission of some sort. There would have been some commission to see why this really happened and all of that. But welcome to South Florida. Aquí estamos, la más corrupta del mundo. The most corrupt on planet Earth is down here. And it's honestly sickening. I really think it's sickening. I thought that they would have learned. But unfortunately, they wasted. And this could be a perfect example of millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer money being incorrectly spent to garbage of construction like that. The FIU bridge that collapsed. Do you think they ever built anything again? No. I mean, it's just fucking crazy. And this will lead to, my last reasoning as to, will this ever change? And will South Florida ever be a better place with respects to our inherent problems with construction? Unfortunately, with the massive amount of influx of northerners and people who want to live in South Florida and obtain the South Florida lifestyle, I feel like that will unfortunately lead to just the continuation of having this high demand of continuously building and more construction. Just continue the $1 million projects at any cost. It doesn't matter. Do I think that the regulatory aspect of construction will change and how they go about providing permits and how they, provide that standard of coding for how these buildings can be built? They need to change. Are they going to change? Probably not. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. and all the platforms that are hosting my podcast, Live Trials by EAC. And I would really, really, really appreciate it if you would consider supporting me on my website, elizabethcharnay.com. Any donation is enormously appreciated to keep Live Trials by EAC up and running. Thank you again for tuning in to Live Trials by EAC with yours truly. I love you guys so much. Thank you for believing in me. See you.